Hey folks, welcome to a podcast about Catholic things. This is Eric, the ambassador of common sense, and I'm here with
Dan, the ambassador of nonsense. Welcome everyone.
And let's see, we're talking about priests today who are undergoing persecution by their Catholic bishops, right?
Yeah, let's even modify that a little bit, because
okay.
I started thinking about that, and then I got into reading about this one priest, and I got completely sidetracked, and so the topic is no longer priests who are being persecuted, although that's an underlying reality.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, reading some of these things, I could not. I was going to explode if I couldn't just talk about some of the stupidity of bishops.
Yeah.
And it's like they are on another planet.
Yeah. You're specifically talking about in Costa Rica? Is that what you said?
That's the big one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the whole conference of bishops down there. But, you know, we've already covered, for example, Father James Altman, whose faculties were suspended by the Bishop of, La Crosse.
Yeah. Was there ever any update to that? Do you know?
The only update that I am aware of is that he is continuing. He's not going to just kowtow. He's going to continue to use every appeal available to him within canon law to fight it.
Yeah. But I guess nothing's changed. He's still...
Right. But people have contributed tremendously to a fund to help with his defense. So I guess he can probably hire some canon lawyers and that kind of stuff.
He is a lawyer, isn't he?
Make his case within the church. Is he?
I think he's
like a canon lawyer.
I don't know about a canon lawyer, but I believe he's an actual lawyer.
Okay, so maybe that
I should shut up. I might be totally wrong here.
Well, but we'll find out by the end of the podcast whether Father James Altman is a lawyer or not.
But that was pretty maddening, because it was like a week after that, this Monsignor in the same bishop's territory. Well, he's forced to resign,
this is the one with the guy
on Grindr.
Who was hanging out on Grindr and going to the gay clubs and stuff like that.
And this is a guy with serious power, and
he held some position in the U.S. CCB, a position that was overseeing the proceedings related to how to handle the sex abuse charges, right? I mean, it was some kind of real ironic scandal like that.
Yeah, he was an attorney who had a family practice. It's like Father Altman was,
and then he became a priest.
Yeah, so he's got the mind of a lawyer. So that's
all right.
Good for him.
Good. Let's hope he prevails. Obviously, his bishop is. I don't know. I'm just gonna decide to go with the word stupid rather than evil tonight. That'll be my charitable go-to. His bishop is obviously stupid.
Well, okay, I'm going to let you talk about it for a while, and then I'm going to give my take on this, because I did a quick Google search. When you mentioned this subject, I did a quick Google search, and I thought, man, I'm not even getting into the details of this, and it's just irritating. But well, I'll tell you my thoughts here, because I don't know everything you're going to talk about. So
no, mostly it's going to be Costa Rica, and it's not like I have a ton of stuff. It's just like reading through an article and seeing some of the things that these bishops are saying. It's like, wow, you actually said that out loud? Are you trying to make yourself look incompetent as a bishop?
Yeah.
But before we get to Costa Rica, there's a bishop in Boise, Idaho, Bishop Peter Christensen, who's also a total idiot. He banned the Ad Orientem posture in the Mass for his entire diocese.
What'd you say his name was?
Ad Orientem. Peter Christensen, not Christensen, but
Christensen. Okay.
Christensen.
Okay. And he banned Ad Orientem?
He banned Ad Orientem. And okay, there's lots of people out there who perhaps have never seen it, never heard of it, maybe don't know what it is, maybe some of you listening to us. So let me describe it to you this way. The entire Mass, the entire point of the Mass is something that's offered to the Father. And the priest is preeminent among us in that he's acting in the person of Christ. The ministry of his special priesthood is that he is an alter Christus, another Christ, who is there for us, directly in front of us, kind of bringing us with him to offer himself, Christ on the cross, to the Father.
So it's not even to Jesus, it's Father. To the Father, and Christ being there through the priest is to the Father. Everything.
To the offering to the Father. So, for most of the church's history, because of the reality of what the Mass is, everybody faced the same way, including the priest. For some reason, after Vatican II, they developed this idea, they got this idea in their heads that the priest ought to face backwards. And so he turns backwards away from the direction of our offering to the Father and instead faces the people. So all the people are facing one way, but the priest, Christ, who's supposed to be leading us in offer to the Father, is facing backwards towards us.
So the guy we're following is in front of us.
It's kind of like a general leading his troops into war by walking his horse backwards.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what it is when you don't face Ad Orientem. So when you see things about, the priest turns his back on the people. Well, no, he's turning to lead the people in a sacrifice to the Father. Just like, a general leading his troops into battle or
it's
whatever.
Really the only way that makes any sense whatsoever. I can't think of a single reason why the priest would look at the people for a Mass.
Or the people would, be
want
encouraged
to see
look at the priest.
Yeah, we're not praying to the priest.
See, obviously they look at the priest, but they should see the priest as Christ, not as Father Bob or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, this bishop, has just taken the step to ban all, and I think it must be just that he's maybe, I don't know, emboldened by the recent Motu Proprio or something like that, and he decided to ban all Masses in the Ad Orientem posture. Now, it is true that the general instruction on the Roman Missal, the current GIRM, sadly and stupidly expresses a preference for Mass to be celebrated in this way. But we've already covered how the Mass, the Novus Ordo, for example, is not the Mass called for by Vatican II.
Right.
Nonetheless,
I would point out here that we've done so far 2 podcasts talking about the changes called for by Vatican II and going through them line by line, and it's something we'll do again. We're going to continue until we get through the whole document. But,
through the whole document, right.
You can go back and listen to those to see what the document says, and you'll be like, well, no, then I guess we're not doing what the document says, because we don't do that.
Yeah. Now, like I said, the GIRM expresses a preference. It uses weird words like, it says that the altar should be out away from the wall so that the priest can face the people while celebrating Mass, which is to be desired whenever possible, or something like that. Very weird language. But it's not. I know people want to seize on weird language like that and say, "Oh, that's just an outgrowth of Vatican II." Even in history, the Church has sometimes used strange language. Things like you and I talked about on this podcast before. The was it Pius during the Protestant revolt, Pius the Ninth, or was it?
Say this again.
Even back Pius the Fifth. Was it Pius the Fifth during the Protestant revolt? Like issued some bull pronouncing excommunication.
Oh, that was
who cooperated with
England. Yeah, we talked about that too, and I think it was.
We talked.
I think it was the
fifth.
Scratched
our heads over that. Okay. Pius the Fifth.
Number 5.
What could this mean? Okay, so it's not like vague or strange language is new in the church, and I don't want anybody to hear us say that this is just since Vatican II. But this one particular aspect of the general instruction is kind of weird. It does say that there's a preference for the priest to face backwards towards the priest. However, here's the gold quote from this bishop, and this is what marks him as just, he's got to be living on another planet. I don't know if he goes back to his wherever bishops live and spends the night smoking weed or what.
Yeah.
His quote is this: "There are priests who prefer ad orientem. I am convinced that they mean well and find it a devout way to pray." That's a stupid
you think
line
so?
In itself, but that's not the gold. The overwhelming experience worldwide after Vatican II is that the priest faces the people for Mass. Okay, here's the big one, and this has contributed to the sanctification of the people.
What?
We are at an all-time high of people who don't even know the basics of the Mass, who don't even participate in Mass because they don't even know what they're supposed to be participating in. All-time high of people who don't even believe the basic tenets of the Holy Eucharist. And this bishop thinks that facing backwards towards the people has somehow contributed to their sanctification.
I don't even understand what
could he possibly be talking
think
about?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly. This is like bonkers.
Like, maybe he thinks that since people are less racist now than they were 100 years ago, that it's because the priests started facing the people, and that led to the lack of racism, which means really what happened, and that's why everybody's going to heaven now, because there are less racists. Yeah, that's the only. I mean, because they live on racism. I mean,
what could he possibly mean? And you know what? The fact, the truth is, I won't call it a fact. I'll call it a truth. People are probably more racist today.
Yeah, I think they are.
Out there
they definitely are.
That black people, Latinos, they're not smart enough. They're not good enough. We got to help them out.
Yeah,
and, that's racism.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway,
I know. I pull that out of the air because it's like the go-to for every single bishop.
But I think you're
that
right.
And immigration, and
exactly.
It's like
immigration, right?
That's what holiness is not being racist and welcoming
and wanting open borders,
everyone into your country, despite the fact that they lock their doors. We're not allowed to go in their houses, but
and despite
whatever.
The fact that it allows sex trafficking to go on unchecked.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, they make money off of this. We know this at this point. The bishops, if you don't know, then you should look into this. The bishops make money per head of illegal immigrants in the guise of, what do they call them? Not evacuate, I can't think of the word.
Refugees.
Refugees. In the guise of refugees.
The catch and release refugees.
Yeah, so the bishops make X number of dollars per
them, and so they
refugee. And that's where they're getting most of their money now. And that's why they don't give a damn whether or not people are able to get to Mass.
It's like a third.
I don't know.
I mean, it's an enormous
It's
amount
a huge amount.
The USCCB budget. But I thought it was like a third.
Yeah, I may have been exaggerating on that. But it's why they don't care whether or not we get to go to Mass. It's why they said, go ahead and shut the doors. We don't need your money anymore. I'm going to And it's why they don't care whether or not they tick off the traditional movement, which is growing.
You say, oh, you know what? Instead of giving my money to the church in an envelope on Sunday, I'm going to just contribute directly to this fund or this, charity that's doing good Catholic work or something like that.
They don't care anymore. So
anyway, this is Boise, Idaho. So we've got two bishops here, right here in the United States, that are just, bonkers, idiots, whatever. Okay, so now here's what kind of got me onto this rant in the first place, which is these bishops in Costa Rica. So the background of this is, all right, everybody knows the Motu Proprio, no more traditional Mass. Now, first, before we get into the story, I want to say that there is a current problem of precision in language and thought and discussion when it comes to the form of the Mass. And you'll see this, if you just, Google some certain key terms, you'll see that everywhere you look, it's almost impossible to find a news article or a blog post or anything that does not equate Latin Mass with traditional Mass.
Yeah. It's kind of weird.
Because today, certainly most Masses are, said in the vernacular. Now, to me, it's even weirder. And people may not realize that
the vernacular is the local language.
Yeah,
we
vernacular
say that
means the local language. Yeah,
okay.
So if you're English speaking, your vernacular is English, and so on and so. If you're in Mexico or Spain, your vernacular is Spanish.
Yeah.
But the Novus Ordo Mass is a Latin Mass, and only by specific approval can alternate vernacular texts be used. But the Latin is the base language for the Mass. It is what the Mass was promulgated in. So, and for me, growing up, when I was a teenager, even a young teenager, I won't say young teenager because I had to be old enough to drive. So an older teenager, young adult, I went routinely to a Latin Mass that was a Novus Ordo Latin Mass. Most Sundays I would go to the Latin Mass, and then many of those Sundays I would also go to a traditional Mass. So to me, it's like doubly weird. It's doubly difficult to sort of countenance this lack of precision when it comes to describing the Mass. And everywhere in the world, Latin Mass equates to traditional Mass. So, okay, just putting that out there.
Yeah.
So now we've got this Motu Proprio, and what the Motu Proprio does is it says, okay, here are some new restrictions that we're going to place on the celebration of the traditional Mass. It doesn't make reference to the language that the Mass is said in. It's talking about the text that's used for the Mass and when that was promulgated. The 1962 texts of John the 23rd, or is it 1960? Somewhere around there, versus the more recent Paul VI Mass, which happened after Vatican II.
Yeah. 1970.
So, this priest in Costa Rica, he had been one to celebrate the traditional Mass. There are people in Costa Rica who want that Mass, and he was one of those who supplied that for them. After this Motu Proprio, instead of celebrating the traditional Mass, he said, okay, I got to celebrate the Novus Ordo. I'll celebrate the Novus Ordo. And he did. But he celebrated it in Latin.
Yeah.
Now,
which is what it's written in. That's how it's offered to us in Latin.
That's what it's written in, yeah. And in fact, before we get too much further on that, there's two things that I want to read to you. One is, and I'm going straight to the Vatican website for this. One is the Code of Canon Law and Canon concerning the celebration of the Mass. And I'm going to read Canon 928.
I would also...
Which says...
Okay. Mm-hmm. I would point out here that there are 4 local recognized languages in Costa Rica.
Oh, yeah.
It's not all Spanish. Yeah. Well, a lot of them are. The official language is Spanish. There are 4 different languages in that region that many people speak. So there's not like one language there.
It's not like by choosing just Spanish, you're necessarily going to be unifying everybody or something like that.
Right.
Okay, Canon 928 says, the Eucharistic celebration is to be carried out in the Latin language or in another language provided that the liturgical texts have been legitimately approved. Okay, so the Latin language is always approved, other languages as legitimately approved. Now, to be perfectly fair, this does not, strictly speaking, take away a bishop's right to tell a priest, hey, you have to say the Mass in this particular approved language. We have the texts, it's been approved, here you have to use this. But there's another thing that I want to read to you. And it's the document Redemptionist Sacramentum. And I'm going to go again to the Vatican's website for that.
Where?
Now, this is so after the new Mass came out, there were a lot of, abuses that grew up. The clown masses, the liturgical dancing, various stupid things going on with the Mass. And so the Pope, I think it was John Paul II, came out with Redemptionist Sacramentum, certain matters to be observed or avoided regarding the Most Holy Eucharist. So this is sort of okay, guys, look, you're carrying things too far. We got to reestablish some ground rules here and make some things clear that for whatever reason you're not getting by just reading the rubrics of the Mass. So
okay.
And
that's what this document is. Okay.
That's what this document is. All right. Now, I got to page through. Okay. Mass is to be celebrated either in Latin or in another language, provided that liturgical texts are used or which have been approved according to the norm of law. Here's the thing. Except in the case of celebrations of the Mass that are scheduled by the ecclesiastical authorities to take place in the language of the people, which I'm not sure what exactly that means, priests are always and everywhere permitted to celebrate Mass in Latin.
Huh.
So,
what do you know?
Priests are always and everywhere permitted to celebrate Mass in Latin. So, if, for example, the bishop wants to have a special Mass and schedules that special Mass and says, we're going to do this in the language of the people, okay, then he taps some priest and says, hey, I want you to cover this Mass for me. Well, then he has to do it the way the bishop says. But outside of a circumstance like that, priests are always and everywhere permitted to celebrate Mass in Latin. Always. Not just at certain times, not just, on the off hours, not just during the week. Always. And everywhere. Not just in their own private chambers, not just, in the small chapels. Everywhere.
Yeah.
Always and everywhere permitted to celebrate Mass in Latin. Okay, so that's what this priest in Costa Rica, Father Sixto Eduardo Varela Santa Maria, did. He celebrated the Novus Ordo Mass in Latin as the Code of Canon Law specifies and as Redemptionist Sacramentum indicates he is always and everywhere permitted to do. For this act, he was suspended for disobedience to his bishop's directive forbidding the use of the traditional Mass. Okay, this even takes the cake over some American bishops' stupidities. He didn't even disobey, and he's suspended for disobedience.
Yeah, well...
He obeyed the directive, and he's being suspended for disobedience.
Did he have a response to this?
His response, and here's the thing: I don't want anybody to feel like Father. He's he's got 4 names: Sixto, Eduardo, Varela, Santa Maria.
They make a lot of names down there.
Is it Father Varela? Is it Father Santa Maria? I don't know. But I don't want anybody to get the idea that he is, somehow failing here. Okay. Because, for example, he has called out the local authorities for their bad behaviors, and stuff like that. We're all called to be somewhat of a firebrand when it comes to interacting with the pagan world and so on and so forth. When it comes to our own bishops, not every priest is called to be a firebrand. Father James Altman is being called to be that. Father Varela is not. What he has said is that he's going to accept the discipline of his bishop and submit obediently. And he's not wrong in doing that. Because the reality is this, that a bishop, the rule of obedience does not derive from the bishop not being a complete idiot. It does not derive from the bishop not being evil. It doesn't derive from the bishop, having any clue what he's talking about or anything like that. It only derives from the bishop's office as the bishop. And so Father has decided to simply accept that discipline. Actually, he gets to go back and be with his parents and spend time with them. He has to go to some kind of weird spiritual psychological counseling thing, which is stupid, and I'm sure he's rolling his eyes every day at that.
Yeah.
But he's decided to simply accept it. He knows that there are canonical appeals that he could make, and he's decided not to make them. He's just going to go ahead and accept this discipline. But just the very fact of this, it's like, are the bishops in Costa Rica so poorly educated that they don't even understand their own directives and commands? They don't even know what they're saying when they give an order?
Where do these bishops come from? Do they come from Costa Rica?
I think they're
generally.
Yeah,
are they
grew up
natives?
in Costa Rica, became priests. Now they're bishops. Yeah, I think they're Costa Rican natives.
How did this priest come to be educated enough to where he could even say it in Latin? And
well, that's a good point.
And
why
aren't more of the educated men bishops instead of this doofus? Have you read some of the quotes from the bishops?
Yeah.
You want to pull your hair out. It's got, for example, we never had a group of faithful who adhere and continue to adhere with much love and affection to the previous liturgical forms. Okay, they says that. Well, then why do they have to ban it? Are there priests?
If there's nobody there,
is there a crowd going, we don't want this Latin? I
think, it's like he completely misunderstands. I could either conclude that he's purposely misunderstanding that line in Summorum Pontificum, or I could just conclude that he's a complete, total
idiot.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Let's go to England again. When St. Thomas More was being beheaded. His charge, I think it was... I can't think of the word now. His charge was treason. I think it was treason. If not, then a lot of the people who were killed during King Henry's persecution was under the guise of treason. They were Catholic, therefore they were treasonous. Especially priests or people who had any kind of influence, like St. Thomas More. That's the word they used to describe why they were killing them. But they weren't stupid. They knew that it wasn't treasonous to love the Catholic Church. And this This is before Pius V and his excommunication. This is before Elizabeth. The charge was usually treason, and there was no treason. We know that. They knew it. For some reason, they felt like instead of just saying, we're going to kill you because you're Catholic and we don't like Catholics, or we don't like the church, instead of saying we're going to persecute you for this reason, we're going to make up these weird things. And they're doing it now. They're going after people for being conservative or traditional, and they're using all these words they're saying things like we're racist, and they know we're not racist. We know that we're not racist. Everybody knows we're not racist. We just disagree with them. And they're saying things like, well, because you're racist, that's why we're going after you. Really what it is because we're evil and you're not evil, we're going to go after you.
That's why we have to, yeah.
And I'm tired of saying anything else. You can call it treason. You can call it racist. You can call it disobedience to the Pope, when it really doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter what words you use to describe this priest's crime. What his crime is that he's holy, and the bishop is not. That's what's happening
true.
here. And I'm tired of. I'm looking at these quotes from these bishops. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
It is clear that the liturgy reformed by Vatican II Council, which it wasn't, and we keep going over that, has all the conditions to elevate the human being and strengthen his spiritual life. Really? Are people more spiritual now since Vatican II? When they don't even know why the hell they're in Mass?
No, yeah, exactly.
Like I said, it makes you want to pull your hair out, but then I get caught up, and it's like, okay, do they know that they're evil?
Well,
I mean, because I end up trying to figure.
Are they just tools of the devil, not like unwitting?
Yeah, maybe they don't know
Ministers of Satan or something.
And because I look at evil people, and I don't know why I keep wondering: is there a way to make them not evil? Is there a way to make them see what they're doing and why it's wrong? And I don't know. I've spent a lot of time looking at this, and I guess just more recently I started thinking it doesn't matter. Maybe they're ignorant, and so maybe they're not gonna suffer eternal damnation, but they're doing demonic work here.
They're doing evil, yeah.
So what does it matter whether or not they're stupid or they really just hate the Mass and hate Jesus Christ and hate the more proper way to say Mass? I don't know. But it doesn't matter, because what these bishops, what Bishop Callahan did, what this other guy, Bishop Christensen, does, it's evil. That's all. It doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter if he's stupid. It's still evil. And I'm sorry that you want to keep pope-splaining and bishop-splaining all these things away to give people the benefit of the doubt, but the benefit of the doubt isn't helping you, it's not helping the bishops, and it's not helping the rest of the laity. You can call yourself nice for not saying, hey, this is evil, but that doesn't help anyone. I know people would say, well, what you're doing isn't helping anyone. I don't know. Not a lot of people have tried it. The vast majority of popular Catholic media would never say what I'm saying. Has that helped anyone? Has the church gotten better or worse over the past 50 years?
Yeah.
I don't know.
The thing is, I mean, I'm reading this article. This article is in Catholic World Report, and it's I would call it mainstream Catholic news letter. I mean, it's published by Ignatius Press. I mean, it's not like, super right-wing like Church Militant, or, super liturgically conservative like the Remnant or something like that.
Right.
But it's including these quotes from these Costa Rican bishops. it says they also accused those faithful, the ones who want the traditional Mass, those faithful who sought the traditional liturgy, of not always expressing their view regarding the validity and legitimacy of liturgical reform or of the dictates of Vatican II and the magisterium of the pontiffs.
Really? So, they're not always expressing their views? So what, are they going to guess at
regarding them? This? So it's like, if you don't constantly give some kind of obeisance, oh yeah, the new Mass is valid, Vatican II is good, the new Mass is valid. If you're not constantly saying those words, you're somehow suspect?
Yeah, but what happened to
That's the accusation that you don't always say those words?
What happened
this is so stupid.
The fact that they never had a group of faithful who like the Latin, the old
apparently,
right.
Except that group of faithful that they don't actually have anyway is not always expressing their view.
They have this deep underground view that they don't like Vatican II, but maybe it's not Vatican II. Maybe it's just you guys. Did you ever think of that? Maybe it's the way you're doing things and then blaming Vatican II as if Vatican II is what made you do all these evil things. But it's not, because I don't see that evil in Vatican II. And we're going through, again, this Sacrosanctum Concilium line by line, and I don't see any of this crap in that document.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get to something that really jars against that in a minute, but to follow on kind of along the same quote, they claimed that they, the faithful who seek the traditional liturgy, did not meet the requirement of having to know Latin so they could participate in the Mass. This is a requirement that doesn't exist anywhere.
Yeah, when did...
These bishops in Costa Rica are claiming that there's a requirement for the faithful who want to participate in the Latin Mass, in the traditional Mass, to know Latin first.
Huh. I guess I'm not participating in the Latin Mass then, because I don't know a word of Latin. I have trouble pronouncing the words that we talk about most of the time.
Where do they come up with this stuff? It's like, they're like Democrats in America. They're so childish and stupid about their understanding of things.
Yeah, it's...
Okay. Then, here's the really big one. The bishops went further than this, adding that the Reformed liturgy, here's the quote, must be protected from any element that originates in the ancient forms.
Wow.
That's a direct quote.
Wow.
Costa Rican bishops. This is a complete break with the liturgy. They are specifically calling for and expressing their intention of a complete break with the liturgical history and patrimony of the Catholic Church, which we, on this podcast, have read in the Vatican II document itself was never supposed to happen.
In fact, it was supposed to be very much protected from breaking from the traditions that have been handed down to us for 2,000 years.
Preserved. It was not even supposed to be a replacement of the ancient Mass.
Yeah, that was very specifically
only a revision of those elements that may have accreted culturally that may not necessarily be as meaningful in our culture.
See, that's why I don't buy the ignorance argument. I'm sorry. But what do you do?
I mean, is it possible to be that ignorant?
No, it's not.
That's the thing.
Because if you have them, maybe at one time it was like when they're becoming a priest, many years ago. But at some point, that, oh, wait a minute, this rite that we're talking about isn't actually what Vatican II wanted. I mean, you got to study some of those documents, but at some point, you understand, I think, what you're doing, and you make a choice.
I don't see how you could not.
we all make choices,
does the entire collective of the Costa Rican bishops just decide we're not going to actually read any of the stuff we're talking about, and we're just going to say these things?
No.
No, there's got to be at least one bishop who has actually read these documents. Now he knows, and he's letting this happen.
Now, it could be that all of this was written up by a group of laity and just handed to the bishop, and he signed it, or the several bishops. I don't know if this was one bishop or if he's speaking on behalf of all the Episcopal Conference of Costa Rica.
Keeps saying they. It's
the
like
bishops
the
of the
bishops in Costa Rica.
Yeah. So
I got to think that they know what's going on. They know what they're signing. Yeah, maybe some lay people help draw it up, but at least one of these, bishops has to be reading this stuff, and at least one of the bishops in this group has to have actually, taken the doggone 10 minutes to read an actual Vatican II document or an actual, letter from one of the recent popes, like Summorum Pontificum or the Redemptionist Sacramentum or something like that.
Right. It's
and so I keep wanting to say, wow, bishops are really stupid.
No.
But you're right. How can you keep saying that over and over and over again to such and it becomes to where the absurdity is even to allow that they're just being absurdly stupid.
Right.
And at some point you've got to conclude, there's just something evil going on here. Even if it's a willful ignorance, let's say it is ignorance. There's a point where you have to start saying, but it's not innocent ignorance, it's willful ignorance.
They purposely choose to ignore the facts that are right there in front of them. It's disheartening because all of the laity and the priests, look, we expect all kinds of evil from the world, and we expect to be, and Jesus told us, expect to be ridiculed. The world hated me, it's going to hate you. So we go into this, and we do find some solace in Jesus' words when he says, blessed are the those who are persecuted for their beliefs. That's not the right wording. I can't remember. But we get a little bit of comfort from that. But we expect the church to accept us because the church isn't the world. And so these priests who have clung on to the traditions of the church and the thousands and thousands and growing laity who have rediscovered the beauty of these traditions, we expect our haven to be in the church. Even if we're just put to death by the rest of the world, we expect the haven to be there for us, especially among these bishops. But now it's not. It just isn't.
Yeah, it's like the shepherds themselves are purposely leading the flock into barren lands instead of green pastures and stuff. It's like, hey, that area over there, that'll be much better for you. Oh, okay, well, this is all rocky and sandy, and there's no grass growing here, and I don't see water for miles. And
there's wolves right over the other side of that hill there.
There's lions and wolves and cougars and whatever.
It's... What do you do?
Okay, at what point do you say, okay, the bishops, we're not going to pretend anymore that they are somehow hallucinating grass and water in these pastures they're leading us into?
That's the problem we run into, because if this were a government, we could revolt. If this were just culture, we could just say, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to ignore you. But this is the church, and it's set up a certain way, and we have no power whatsoever to change it. They do have the authority.
We still have to obey.
These bishops are suspending good priests, and they have the power to do it. And we can't take that power from them. They don't get it from us. They get it from God. So we're left with, well, what do you do? We can't we're not going to get anywhere by leaving the church. I mean,
no, we can't.
We can't become Protestants.
Here's what we can do. I mean, we can help, make noise. We're allowed to make noise. We're allowed to state what we see. We see evil, we state evil. We see stupidity, we state stupidity, and so on and so forth. We're allowed to do that. We got to be charitable. We're not allowed to disobey. But the other thing we're allowed to do is pray. So, what we can
keep doing that. As we say at the end of each podcast, circle the beads.
Yeah, circle the beads. And, say a daily rosary, but also, every day and every night, maybe say 2 extra Hail Marys when you wake up before you go to bed. 1 Hail Mary in thanksgiving for all the good bishops. There are some. And then 1 Hail Mary in reparation for all the bad bishops.
Yeah.
And when you personally have to suffer under a bad bishop, offer that up. Make that part of that, make your Hail Mary part of that, offering it up too. Hey, this is part of my daily offering. This is part of my daily suffering. I offer it up specifically for this bishop, this bad bishop who I have to suffer under.
You know what? There's another thing you can do. And I'm going to go back to England because when we did that podcast about, I don't even know which one was that. When we talked about, we kind of went more in depth into the Church of England.
Oh, right.
What was that even about? Hold on, I'm going to look that up.
I think we were comparing our current situation to the Church of England.
Yeah,
and the bishops in England kind of sold the church out in many cases, where the local country priests maybe
okay. I think it was Catholics coping with the fact that the church has left us, and then finding a home when we're not welcome. So this is about the bishops turning against us. Because it was right after Bishop Casey. Bishop
Callahan
suspended Callahan. Bishop Callahan suspended Father Altman.
Suspended James Altman.
We know a guy named Casey Callahan, so I call him Bishop Casey.
Bishop Casey.
Anyway, that was the podcast that was on in July it was just a couple months ago. Anyway, one of the things I found out was that they would arrest these priests, and it was before they had started putting Catholics to death for attending Mass or for being Catholics. It was mainly the priests they were going after, and they were going after influencers. So they're arresting priests, and people are going to prison to see the priest, to visit the priest. And it actually, there was a little bit of a, they arrested men from other churches too. Like if they found a Muslim, they would arrest him. Or if they found some, a Lutheran, he would get arrested too. Because this is not, Luther's domain, it's, the Church of England. So, other ministers were arrested, but prison guards would rather have a priest in their prison because more people would, not just the guards,
collect more bribes.
There would be more bribes to get in and see him, and not only that, but there
better behaved.
There was a privacy. There was there was an economy to running a prison. And it wasn't just run by the state. There were private institutions that ran prisons. And if they had a priest, they had to do much less for him because food and stuff like that would be given by the locals.
By visitors and so forth.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I guess what I'm getting at is when we have a good priest, especially someone like Father James Altman, who's being persecuted, or this guy in Costa Rica, we can donate money to a cause that maybe he for him, or just visit him. If we could go to his masses, we could make ourselves known to those priests, at least to let the priests know, hey, we do love you. And then to make ourselves visible to these evil bishops. It's better if these evil bishops see us. It's better that we don't hide from them.
Yeah.
I don't know what it helps, but I know it's better.
We should not be, like, oh, wait, I don't want my bishop to know that I prefer that. No, be bold, speak out.
Yeah, hey, let's hold a sign up in front of the bishop's palace.
The church no longer has, the church once upon a time had its own jails and its own, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't have that anymore.
Right.
There's no possible, physical retribution that the bishop can enact against you if you speak out, other than like maybe if you hold a job at the diocese or maybe one of the local Catholic schools or something like that. Okay, then I can see you might be a little bit trepidatious, but that's another powerful way to witness. To say, hey, this is, look at Timothy Gordon, just for speaking the truth.
Right, and he was
summarily dismissed from his position as a teacher at a Catholic school.
At a Catholic school, yeah.
Who would have thought that
speaking out against an organization that was started by witches, lesbian witches, Marxist lesbian witches.
Fundamentally anti-Catholic organization. He spoke against it, and he got fired by his Catholic school.
So, if you have a priest in your diocese who's being persecuted by an evil bishop, like Callahan or Christensen or this one of these
Costa Rican
bishops, just speak out and let the priest know you're there for him. Let him know that you got his back. I think that probably goes a long way, because when your own church turns against you for doing what you think is right, I mean, that's the thing. These priests, I'm sure, have a lot of faith and conviction in what they're doing, but when their own bishops and their own church has turned against them, they got to be suffering with doubt, because they're human beings. They got to be thinking, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it's stupid to pray like this, the way we did for 2,000 years. Maybe I'm the one who's an idiot. I'm sure they go through that.
All those saints throughout the history of the church.
Yeah.
But you're right. When you're in the situation, when you're not being persecuted, it's easy to sit outside and see the big picture. Okay,
right.
2,000 years of sanctity, and people falling into sin and then being brought back to sanctity again and again throughout the church, and all of those saints and all of those wonderful priests. And this is the mass they said.
Yeah.
But when you're being persecuted, your world suddenly becomes a lot smaller.
Yeah, it's hard.
And it's harder to see that.
You see very small things suddenly, and it's. I imagine, I don't know any priests who have really been persecuted this way. I don't really know any priests anyway, but I imagine that
I tend not to know priests directly. Yeah,
it would at least be something for the laity in that area to make a visible sign, hopefully a loud sign that says, "Hey, we love what you're doing, and we're on your side." Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. Maybe someday we'll need to do something like that here in Cincinnati. I don't think we have an evil bishop here in Cincinnati. I think he's a pretty good bishop.
So far, it's okay.
We still have our Latin Mass.
Okay, in Indianapolis too.
Yeah, although I don't know. I'm sorry. This is the guy who said no. You cannot have confessions.
That was the one thing with the confessions. It's like, really?
I got to get my coffee.
Yeah, that was pretty idiotic. I have to admit that was complete, and it showed an unfortunate willingness to invert priorities. That I can't justify that. But when this Motu Proprio came out, our bishop's immediate response was, just keep doing what you're doing. at least until December to give us time to figure out how to make things work for you. That was his response.
I do know that Bishop Schnurr, when he came into the office, the first thing he did was said, hey, look, our seminaries are overrun with gays. We've got to change this. And that's, and he started a ministry for same-sex attraction people. Not one that they could meet up with each other and feel good about what they're doing. One that taught them how to be holy. So
some of those ministries are like, you look into them, it's like, that's nothing but Catholic Grindr.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of them, I know people who were instrumental in this ministry, and he told me that that's the expectation a lot of people had when they first showed up. Okay, I'll meet other gays. But it was
Catholic singles scene for queers.
Yeah, that's what some people thought, and it was quickly shown to them, no, that's not what this is. We're trying to teach you to not be gay. You can, if you like other men, that's okay. That's unfortunate, but you can't be gay. You can't.
Something you got to suffer with.
You can't have sex with other men.
If you want to be married, go out and find a woman, marry her.
Yeah.
You be honest about who you are, about your what you suffer with, but marry her, and then you can be married.
Yeah.
If you want to be single, okay, then you got to abstain from sexual activity, but that's how it has to be.
Yeah. So, but we did. I mean, we had Bishop. Who's the seamless garment guy?
Oh, I know who you mean. Cardinal Bernardin.
Didn't he start off in Cincinnati? Why do I think that?
Was he in Cincinnati? Hold on, let me find out. I did not realize that.
I don't know why I think this.
Cardinal Joseph Bernardin. It's Bernardin. I'm just going to Google.
Cincinnati. 72 to 82.
He was in Cincinnati. Did not realize that. 72 to 82. Wow, that was most of my...
So I was just a kid. I know remember...
Because I graduated from grade school in 84. That was most of my grade school life. I was blissfully unaware of such issues during that time.
I would remember Mom being on the phone with her friends or whatever and griping about the bishop. Just never remembered what she was saying, just griping about the fact that the bishop is saying crazy, stupid things. And so we did have a bad bishop, but I think he's dead, isn't he?
Daniel Pilarczyk was the first time
he wasn't very good
of having a bishop. It was Daniel Pilarczyk, and he wasn't very good either, from what I understand.
I think
he was one of those that
he did go for the whole seamless garment thing. I think, but I know that the gay problem got worse under his rule. I mean the gay seminaries. That happened under him. So, I mean, if you weren't aware of something like that, you ought to be. I mean, how could you not be aware when all of your seminaries are producing nothing but gay priests? It might not have been quite that bad, but it's my understanding that actually most of the world is that bad right now. But. So,
which still means we've got a whole generation of queer priests that we need to get out of the, there's still a generation worth of flushing to do.
Yeah.
In the church.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to take another 40, 60 years before we can say, and this is assuming that the seminaries have cleaned up their act in terms of helping with discernment and that kind of stuff.
And they haven't.
40 to 60 years from now before we say, okay, finally, we've got a church that maybe we can get serious about the work of salvation of souls.
And we haven't, because, I mean, the Monsignor we were just talking about was in charge of priestly formation at one of the most powerful seminaries in America.
Formation. This is the grinder guy.
Yeah. So this is the guy making bishops.
We're still struggling with it.
And
it'll be 80 years.
So I mean, we just got to kind of pray for a miracle now, but we got to suffer until we have a miracle under evil bishops.
But you know what? You're right. That miracle could come in the form of some kind of secular enemy of the church.
Yeah.
Simply destroying seminaries, period, so that there are no more priests except those who are being cultivated secretly. Yeah. And at risk to their own necks. Of course, those priests are not going to be the kinds of priests we're getting today. Those will be real priests. They'll be courageous priests. And that could be how the church gets rebuilt.
Yeah. We got anything else?
All right. I have exhausted my...
ranting.
My pool
you got it out of your system for now, maybe.
With bishops, yeah. It's like I started thinking, hey, well, let's just kind of start pulling together the names of persecuted priests. Well, it's actually kind of hard to find them.
Yeah,
it because it's not like Google elevates those kinds of stories and posts and that kind of stuff.
Right, and a lot of them suffer silently.
Actual quotes from Costa Rica, and I thought, wow, we can do a whole podcast just on these Costa Rican idiots.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, we're not a real popular podcast, and so we don't have priests contacting us. But it's my understanding that people like Taylor Marshall, actually they've said this on the air, Timothy Gordon, people like that, are contacted by traditional priests who say, I can't come out as a traditionalist. I can't act traditional. I will get fired. And also, I think it was, I can't remember if it was Timothy Gordon or someone else. No, I don't know. Anyway, he had a guest on who said, yeah, I personally know several priests who had a big parish and they were moved to these little backwater places where they could only contact 2 or 3 people, and because of being traditional,
being influential.
Yeah.
Right.
So maybe someday, I don't know. I wish those priests would have a voice, but at the same time, I don't think they would use it because they're suffering silently so that they don't suffer more,
Well, they're suffering silently so that they don't suffer more,
and under obedience.
This is the twisted irony that I think Satan has started to learn to use as a tool. Those are the priests who also are going to take things like obedience the most seriously.
Yeah.
So it's a conscientious, it's a moral thing for them to be obedient even though it causes suffering.
I guarantee you Slim Jim wouldn't be obedient like that.
Yeah, Slim Jim goes out, he disobeys, and then the bishops welcome him for it.
It's crazy. Well, I'll tell you what. Okay, we're going to get into news, but we haven't really been talking about the antics of our Pope or our local bishops a whole lot. I've been kind of ignoring a couple things. For example, we got so the Pope, Francis, appoints an Italian nun as secretary of the dicastery for promoting integral human development. The first woman to... I don't even know what that means.
What is that? Say those words again. Those words don't even make sense.
Secretary of the dicastery for promoting integral human development.
Integral human development. A dicastery for promoting integral human development. What does that mean?
I don't know. It's a weird combination of words that... But also, he apparently called a lot of, the Fraternity of St. Peter leaders to Rome, and a lot of the traditional movement.
Groups. Mm-hmm.
He's calling these leaders back to Rome for some kind of meeting. That's scary. Because we know that the Motu Proprio was only the first step. We know he wants to eliminate the Latin Mass altogether. the traditional Latin Mass. We know that's his plan.
From what we can see, he probably wants to eliminate Latin too. I mean,
Yeah.
you notice the Motu Proprio itself
Yeah, it wasn't even in Latin.
was promulgated not in Latin, which is typical for official church documents, but in Italian. What was it, Italian? Yeah, Italian.
Yeah. So it wasn't even a Latin document that was given. It was an Italian one. So he's calling people there. Meanwhile, we've got this audience, general audience. He says, okay, I never understood people who do this. They ask themselves questions and then they answer them. The two questions that he asked himself is, do I live in the fear that if I don't do this or that, I will go to hell? I don't think he does. So I don't know why you would even.
He must not.
Most people should. I mean,
I live in fear that if I don't go to confession frequently, I'm going to go to hell.
Yeah, I mean,
if I don't stay close to the sacraments, I'm going to go to hell. That's a fear that I have.
If I fail in my duties, or and I'm not sorry for it, I live in fear I'm going to go to hell.
If I don't fulfill my duties to my family, I'm going to go to hell. That's a fear that I have.
And if my family was the entire church, then
even more so.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the other one was
answer?
She said no, he does not. Do I despise?
Okay, that explains a lot then, I guess, huh?
Do I despise the commandments? Why would you ask yourself that? Or disregard? I think that's a translation problem. Do I disregard or despise the commandments? No, I observe them, but not as absolutes, because I know that what justifies me is Jesus Christ. And I think he specifies here is an encounter with Jesus Christ is what justifies him.
Encounter with Jesus Christ.
We must observe them, but as an aid to the encounter with Jesus Christ. Actually, we observe them as rules because they're absolutes. They're laws.
Yeah, they are we observe them as being proper to the nature in which God created us.
And I hate to. It's not the encounter with Jesus Christ that justifies us. It's Jesus' death on the cross and us taking part in that through the Mass.
Well, even if it is let's suppose it's the encounter. Where do you encounter Christ most intimately? When you consume him.
Yeah.
When you receive him bodily into your body. And as a part of that, because it's also sacramental, spiritually into your spirit. That's when you encounter Jesus most completely. But let's strip that of all of its meaning, and let's strip that of everything that indicates that that's what it is.
The thing is, I guess... Okay, this is kind of what bothers me, is that they're envisioning this world where... that St. Paul talks about when he says, the law were for the lawless. But we don't live in the law. We live in Christ. We live in the Spirit of Christ. But I guess if we weren't lawless people, if we were holy people, then we really wouldn't have to worry about the law. But when did that... Okay, hold on. Let me read this quote from him. Hold on. It is good for us to ask ourselves if we still live in a period which we need the law, or if instead we are fully aware of having received the grace of becoming children of God so as to live in love. Well,
who's this a quote from?
Do those people exist that don't have to live in the law? How often does that happen here in the church these days when most people don't? Yeah, but most people don't follow the law.
What Paul is talking about is the law of the specific Jewish feasts and the prescriptions of the sacrifices, and
for example,
all the various observances that they had to go through and in their daily lives, and that's the law he was talking about.
Yeah, and the
being circumcised and
circumcision.
So on and so forth. Yeah, but he wasn't talking about the moral law. He was talking about the ritual law.
Yeah. The Ten Commandments is not part of a ritual.
Pope wants to take this ambiguity in the word law and take it and move it from where St. Paul intended it to apply to the ritual law, and now move it, to the moral law?
Yeah.
It's like, as long as we encounter Jesus Christ, it's, okay to, commit adultery maybe?
Yeah. No, I observe them, but not as absolutes.
I cheated on my wife last night, but I encountered Jesus at Mass on Sunday, so that's okay.
So that justifies me.
Is that where he's going with this?
Well, he says, no, I don't, because I know I observe them, but not as absolutes. I don't know.
He observes them, but he doesn't think they're absolutes. Do not commit adultery. That's not an absolute.
Sounds pretty absolute to me.
I don't know. If and even Jesus said, if you look at a woman with lust, you've committed it. It's not just don't commit adultery. It's be faithful to your wife.
Yeah. But we only observe them as an aid to the encounter with Jesus Christ. I don't know. To me, it's more like one of those, hey, it's a commandment. Even if you're not Catholic, it's a commandment.
Yeah.
They're a good way to order a society, and they're a good way to grow in holiness. It's the starting point if you want to be holy.
Yeah,
this is where you start.
Grow in holiness by following the commandments. You simply prevent yourself from becoming absolutely depraved by following the commandments.
Right. So they are absolutes, and if you want to be justified by Christ, you got to follow the commandments.
Yeah.
Obviously, we sin, but we go to confession.
Call your friends if you follow my commandments.
Yeah. I don't know. So, we got him saying stupid things like that. Get this. Mayor Lori Lightfoot in Chicago went to communion at a Catholic funeral.
Is she communion?
Yeah.
I mean,
she was given...
Catholic?
No, she's not Catholic. She's a gay lesbian.
And she was given communion?
Yeah.
At a Catholic funeral?
Yeah.
That was Bishop... I don't know what priest said the Mass, but that's under Bishop Supich, right?
Yeah.
Is it Supich?
Supich.
Or, no,
I think it's Supich.
There's two bishops that I always get confused. Capuch and Supich. I think Supich is the bad one.
Cupich.
Yeah, Supich.
Yeah,
he's the bishop in Chicago, right?
Yeah. He's the bishop in Chicago.
That makes sense. He's kind of been a Pope Francis brown noser, during the whole pontificate.
Yeah, he's like, okay. So anyway, I mean, he was at the Mass, if I understand it right. He was actually there.
Oh, okay. And
so
this Mayor Lightfoot, this lesbian disgrace of a mayor, gets to receive Holy Communion at a Catholic Mass.
Yeah.
And she's not even Catholic. It's not even like Joe Biden, who claims to be Catholic. She doesn't even claim to be Catholic.
She's not even claiming to be Catholic. So, I don't know.
That is
just going over a couple things that the Pope and the bishops are doing, since we're talking about bishops. We've been ignoring that kind of stuff for the past couple weeks. But on to other news. The disasters continue, but I think they are winding down. But there was
Afghanistan?
Well, let's see. Natural disasters. In Venezuela, there were some landslides. I think 20 people were killed. 17 others are still missing. This is from the rain, the hard rains in Venezuela. California fires continue to happen. I think that main one, the Dixie fires, is out, I guess, because I'm not reading anything about it. But there's another one called Caldor fire, Caldor fire. It continues to spread. It's taken over 175,000 acres. And get this. U.S. States Forest Service orders all national forests in California to be closed until mid-September in order to help combat the state's wildfires. How does not... I guess there will be less campfires, but is that really where these things are starting?
Combating the forest fires, yeah.
No, it's not at all.
I thought they were natural.
Well, they're spreading naturally, so I don't know if they're from, like, campfires, or there could be 1,000 different reasons for these things to start. I don't think it's combating the forest fires. Let's see, 2 people are killed and 10 more injured after a 50-foot section of Mississippi Highway 26 collapses.
Wow.
This is from the Hurricane Ida.
Okay, yeah.
So, but I didn't see nearly as much news as I did the week before and the week before that. So hopefully some of these natural disasters are starting to calm down. I know it's a little bit cooler in Cincinnati than it was the past couple weeks. Concerning the Taliban, I'm just going to read through a bunch of these, and they kind of happen in progression throughout the week. Suicide bomber came into the airport at Kabul. Let's see, 90 Afghan civilians are killed, 13 American service members, and 150 other wounded. This is an ISIL suicide bomber.
Okay.
Joe Biden, in an address, says that the evacuation of American citizens will continue despite the terrorist attacks. And then, let's see, at some point this week, he announced that all American citizens have been evacuated. Or, no, all American military has been evacuated.
Right, not the citizens.
So that has happened by the 31st. Canada, Belgium, Denmark, Russia, the Netherlands, Australia, New Zealand, Norway, and Spain end their evacuation flights from Kabul.
No more evacuation flights from any of those countries.
Yeah. So, British troops returned to the United Kingdom from Afghanistan, and they've ended their evacuation. The Taliban re-announced the re-imposition of the public ban on music in Afghanistan. No more music in Afghanistan. Otherwise, you'll be shot by the Taliban.
Yeah, wow.
That's such a weird thing to ban.
Wow. It is.
It's sad. United States urges the Taliban to include former presidents and former other political leaders in the formation of its new government. Yeah, right. Like, there's going to be a new government.
Sure.
It's a bunch of animals. That's all. U.S. Marine Lieutenant Stuart Scheller is fired when he posts a video demanding accountability from the military leaders over the evacuation. I don't know. I don't know what I think about that. I mean, if you're in the military, you don't question your superiors. It's one of those things. The U.S. Embassy in Kabul warns Americans to leave the airport there. I don't understand this. Why are there any Americans still anywhere near that airport in Kabul? Because they
think that that's their best way of getting out of the country.
Yeah, but there's like nonstop fighting there. I think the Taliban is allowing some people who are not Afghan citizens to leave still. LGBT organization Rainbow Railroad says that it has received hundreds of requests for help, mainly from Afghan gay men. I don't know how we're going to help Afghan gay men. I don't know why there won't be any Afghan gay men very long.
Yeah. The Taliban, that is one thing about Islam. Which is weird. It's so weird that the left is like the butts of Islam.
Yeah, it's weird.
And yet,
they just put them to death. There's no...
Won't ever get.
And let's see, Secretary of State Antony Blinken says that there are still about 300 American citizens left in Afghanistan. Taliban says that they will allow us to continue evacuating them. Army General Christopher T. Donahue is the last American service member to leave Afghanistan. So there are still citizens there.
So
and
citizens, but the military is out.
Yeah. And that's all the stuff I got on Taliban and Afghanistan. Wow. In Ukraine, a mass grave containing 5,000 to 8,000 skeletons is discovered. The graves
Any idea where it's from?
Were believed to be back in the 1930s during a major, quote, purge. This is Stalin.
Yeah, that would be
who was
right. That would be
every
bullshit.
bit as bad as Hitler. So,
right.
This is communism, people. Cuba recognizes cryptocurrency as legal tender, becoming the second nation to do so after El Salvador.
Huh.
I think it's easier to control for them as cryptocurrency.
So they okay, so now it's legal tender, but does that mean do they tax it? Do you have to disclose it if you pay people? Like, let's say you pay somebody wages with e-currency or cryptocurrency. Do you have to how do you disclose it? How does the government enforce that? The whole concept of cryptocurrency is to resist those kinds of things.
Yeah. So it's it's probably not good cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
In Garland, Texas, 32-year-old gunman kills a civilian, steals her car, pulls up to the police station outside and starts firing at them. He is eventually killed. So, we're back to these weird terrorist attacks. And I don't know if this is ISIL or this guy named Imran Rashid. Is this some kind of Islam thing? I'm assuming.
Yeah, but what was his goal? What was his objective?
I don't know. To kill people. That's what
weird.
That's what Muslims do. They kill people.
I know, but usually they kill people. But what you said, he killed a woman.
It's terrorism.
In a car and started shooting at police.
They're describing it as a terrorist.
I know, but usually they go for the big terror. The vest bombs and stuff like that that'll take out 100 people at once and whatever.
Yeah,
that's weird.
I don't know. It is weird. Maybe it's not a real terror. Maybe the guy's just crazy.
And maybe the terrorist thing is just a front for something.
Well, no, they're not. They wouldn't say terrorist. Nobody's talking about it being a Muslim thing. I came in with that because of his name and because it mentions that there's a letter possibly giving us the motive, but they don't say what the letter said. They mention terrorism, but I'm looking at his name, and guys with names like that tend to be terrorists. That's not the right way to say this. Terrorists tend to have names like that.
Names like that. That's a better way to.
I'm sorry that that's the truth, but it is
the way it is.
Yeah. China has announced they are prohibiting youth under the age of 18 from playing online video games for more than 3 hours per week.
Per week?
Yeah.
Wow.
See, I think this is just a way to keep people from interacting and...
because what they do with their video games, they get on and they've got their headsets and they talk to each other.
Yeah. This is to
video
keep
games
people from
have
talking.
actually become... I think...
That's the new way of socializing.
And I think better socialization, I hate that word anyway, but I think better socialization occurs over these video games than occurs over things like Facebook and stuff like that.
Yeah, and better than, maybe just like watching TV. Because they do talk as they're playing video games pretty much the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes the talk is about the video games, but they have to talk about other things.
Yeah, they talk about other...
Probably China wanting to stem the tide of so-called dangerous ideas.
Yeah.
Infecting their youth.
Yeah, I don't know what I think about the whole thing. But if China's doing it, there's something wrong with it.
Yeah,
they're bad.
Well,
people.
I mean, the thing is, I would welcome my kids not playing video games more than 3 hours a week, but I would not welcome the government enforcing something like that.
Yeah.
Even if I liked the government right now, which, with Biden in charge, I don't.
Yeah. So North Korea has reactivated, it looks like its nuclear reactor. So I guess they're trying to get some energy, I think. I don't know, but this is...
Okay.
I think this is
an energy reactor,
energy.
This is not producing weapons nuclear material. This is just for energy.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Or we don't think so. But who knows? Right. Those people are nuts. 20 U.S. states, led by Tennessee Attorney General Herbert Slattery, filed a lawsuit against Biden administration in an attempt to halt new regulations put forth by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. This is the U.S. Department of Education promoting transgender rights in schools. So we are reacting to... I don't even understand transgender rights in schools. What
does that mean?
What more rights do they need? What are they not allowed to do things that other people are allowed to do? Or is this more like you have to call him or her him or her? You cannot call it a he if she wants to be she. It's just stupid.
Kids exposed. I mean, my kids are all grown adults, but I wouldn't want my kids exposed to so-called transgender kids in schools.
Yeah.
And as far as transgender kids, just the very concept, the parents of those kids need to be pulled out for child abuse.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Period. That's how that should be addressed.
SpaceX Dragon 2 goes on a resupply mission and docks with the Harmony module of the ISS, carrying 4,800 pounds of supplies. So that's pretty cool.
Wow. Okay.
That's all the news I got.
All right. Well, I've got some news. Let's see here. Okay, this is kind of interesting because over the weekend, I was over at your place and with all the kids who went to the traditional mass and were eating breakfast.
Yeah.
And the conversation turned to these weird challenges that are coming up.
Yeah.
There's the cinnamon challenge and the Tide Pod challenge.
Yeah.
I guess there's something now called a milk crate challenge.
Huh.
Where you build what milk crates are, and you can kind of turn them up. They kind of stack into each other. Well, you turn them upside down and stack them into like a stair step up and then down. And,
okay.
And then you walk it up and then down. But the thing is, because each stack is all by itself, there's no interconnectedness to preserve the integrity of the overall thing. So if one stack is unsteady, it can go very badly for you.
Yeah.
So I guess there's this milk crate challenge to stack up stairs up and then stairs back down on the other side. And I guess the challenge is to make it as high as you can and then walk it. Well, TikTok, over safety concerns, has banned videos of people doing the milk crate challenge. I don't know.
What? That's dumb. I
don't know.
At least there's some kind of physical challenge here. Like, would they ban, a unicycle challenge or a pogo sticking challenge?
Okay.
I mean,
it's a feat of balance and so on and so forth. People are getting hurt, but hopefully it's like
the one that they should have banned would be the Tide Pod.
Yeah, that would have been one to ban.
Or there's some kind of thing with a condom that they did. I can't remember what it was. It's like I
don't remember that one. I don't know.
They would get a condom to go out their nose, I think. I can't remember now. It was something really, really stupid.
That's gross.
I know, it's disgusting. They did something with condoms. That's the kind of idiotic things that should be banned. A physical challenge to try to stack this up and see how high you could get it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I know people get hurt. All right.
Yeah.
Whatever, but,
Hey, you don't have to do it.
People get hurt playing football too, and yeah, nobody has to do it. It's just a challenge. But
oh well,
I don't know. It seems like weird and oddly arbitrary to me.
Yeah,
that's the weirdness of it.
When you have you ever watched that talent show, America's Got Talent?
Oh yeah, they come in with all kinds of stuff there.
Oh, it's dangerous stuff. I cringe watching it. I'm biting my nails every now and then. I don't watch it a whole lot, but when I do, it's like, oh wow, that's cool. But I don't know. They're going to ban that. I mean, it's just whatever. That's what people do. We'd go challenges, and that's an actual challenge. Whereas eating a Tide Pod is not a challenge. It's just idiotic. So
it's just
I would not have banned that one. Yeah.
Nope.
Okay.
All right. Next we have, I guess, so police in West Midlands posted a picture of a man on Facebook who I guess they're kind of looking for.
Yeah.
And I guess this guy just has one of those faces. In fact, with a couple of changes, he could even look like one of our brothers that I won't name.
Yeah.
People are writing in all kinds of things saying that they've seen him on the Scooby-Doo show because he looks a little like Shaggy, and some people are saying he looks like Jesus, and some people are saying he looks like Murph.
So again, all these false leads and stuff.
And they're all false
leads. He's kind of
like,
scruffy looking.
Celebrity people and stuff.
Did you hear Sam's Shaggy impression while you were here? I guess you didn't hear it. You must have been in the other room because we were eating breakfast.
I don't remember it.
Sam started doing his Shaggy. Yeah, he does a good Shaggy. It's pretty funny.
Did he say zoinks?
Yeah. Zoinks. So
okay,
is this?
Anyway.
This is a low. Where is this?
This is.
Where'd you say it was?
West Midlands, which I assume is somewhere in England or somewhere in the UK.
Oh, okay.
It's a mirror.uk story.
That's
all right,
good.
this next one is kind of I don't know. It kind of it like creeps a little bit into that the uncanny valley. You've heard of that?
No, I looked at it.
What's that?
I looked at the story you're about to talk about.
Oh yeah, the baby and this stingray kind of photobombs the picture of the baby with an almost identical expression. Now the thing is that stingray, the things that look like eyes on the stingray, those are actually like nostrils or something like that. Those aren't really eyes,
right?
But nonetheless.
So they're taking a picture of a baby next to an aquarium, and the stingray comes up and flaps against the... And he's got the same expression as the baby.
Yeah.
He's got these two little eyes and two... It's a cute baby.
Yeah, really cute baby.
But, yeah, it's pretty good.
The baby's got this expression on his face like, Mom, did you see that?
Come on. Oh, it's a funny picture. We'll put the picture up.
Yeah. Okay, this next one is not in the email that I sent you. I pulled the. I'll send another email that includes this. But
okay.
I had to. My wife found it while we were watching TV together this evening. The cow. So there's a video of a cow that got stuck in a tree after the flooding from Hurricane Ida.
Wow.
And,
can cows
St.
swim?
Bernard Parish, Louisiana. What's that?
Can cows swim?
I didn't think so. I don't know if cows can swim or not, but
I think they
cow
can.
Was lifted high enough to get caught in this tree when the water's receded, and these rescue workers are kind of like, what do we do about this?
Because you watch Westerns when they go on these cattle drives, and they have to get them across some pretty big rivers.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So I think they can swim.
I think
real slowly.
what they're going to do is just cut the tree down and let the cow kind of drop into the water there or something like that.
Yeah.
It just reminded me of that in Oh Brother Where Art Thou, where the blind guy says you'll see a cow on the top of a cotton house, and then because of the flood,
yeah, you'll see many things. You'll see a cow on the top of a cotton house.
I don't know what a cotton house even is.
I don't either. I guess it's like if you're drying cotton. When you put the cotton after you pick it. Yeah.
Anyway, so this next one is just kind of, I don't know how to describe it. This guy's running from police and he jumps into a mortuary van. There's already a mortuary van. There. He drives off with the van. The body flies out the back.
Well, he didn't want to be charged with mishandling a corpse, stealing a corpse.
I'll take the Grand Theft Auto charge, but not the mishandling of a corpse. I'm going to get rid of that.
Yeah. Or he's just freaked out by the dead body in the back of the car.
That's what he was fleeing. He wasn't fleeing the police. He was fleeing the dead body.
Yeah.
All right, and let's see. Last one. This one. Okay, this actually brings two things to mind. One is Idiocracy, and the other. You remember The Life of Brian when the Roman guard's there and the guys are going through crucifixion, and then he says,
"Yeah,
I forget what
freedom."
he says, but it's something
says,
different.
No, freedom.
Yeah,
freedom. Yeah, they told me I didn't do anything, so I was to be set free. And then he says, "No, I'm just kidding. Really, it's really crucifixion."
It's crucifixion.
Oh, okay. Door on the left.
So, in Columbus, Missouri, a manhunt has been started for 24-year-old Ellen Renee Goebel, held on 5. It says unspecified charges. I think that just means that the prison didn't release the charges. She escaped prison by posing as another inmate.
Okay, so this person's going to get free. That's that one book about the guy who gets out of prison.
But he was dead.
Yeah, he was dead, but then he gets
she didn't pretend to be dead. She just
but she pretends to be. Didn't the other inmate get mad? Released? Like, hey, what the hell? Well, maybe she figured, after. You can get away, and then when they realize they made a mistake, they'll let me go.
Oh, maybe
the other inmate had to cooperate, right?
Well, I don't know. All it
Unless she beat her up or something.
It doesn't even explain how exactly she did it. It says posed as another inmate to escape Saturday morning.
Maybe the
did
other
not know about the escape until they were notified by other inmates. And then the jail staff went back to check the cells to make sure they were all accounted for and confirmed that she had been released falsely.
Pretty good.
Nothing about how she actually did it or whether it involved, a help from the inmate that she impersonated.
So, we have a relative who spent a little time in here at the local jail, the Hamilton County.
Yeah, this was obviously a county holding.
Yeah. So, and but it turns out we actually have 2 relatives who were in the local Hamilton County jail, and one of them told me that I'm not going to say any names. So, Joe is one and Frank is the other. Joe told me that Frank had been there often and was always screwing with the guards and doing things things you would think they would check for, but they don't seem to learn their lessons, putting Jimmy in the lock when the doors are open so that when they close they're not really closed, and then he would get out of his cell and just walk around.
That's weird.
Things like that. And
yeah, you think they would check that and learn their lesson.
Mischief type of things.
Mm-hmm.
And he would do it nonstop. And they would yell at him and throw him back in his cell, but he'd keep doing things like that to screw with everyone.
So what's the lesson here?
I don't know. It's just odd that
employees are idiots?
I don't think they're very smart. I don't. Remember G. Gordon?
Like
what's his name? G. Gordon Liddy. That was his name. He said that every prison guard is an idiot.
Oh, really?
He insisted every one of them is an idiot. And people would call up angry and be like, how are you going to call my such and such aunt an idiot? And he's like, I'm sorry. If she's working she's a prison guard, she's an idiot, period.
Yeah. Well,
all prison guards are idiots.
Maybe prison guards are people who got into the correctional, department employee roster, and they just weren't good enough for any.
They couldn't get out. Yeah. Now I do know in some situations that if you want to be a cop, you have to do some time as a guard.
Okay.
That exists.
They're not permanent prison guards. That's just
right.
Yeah.
But I would assume any permanent prison guard is an idiot. I know some cops who are pretty stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we've got this kid who's we know who's in jail, and he's always screwing with the guards this way. And apparently it's pretty easy to do. You just have to have you have to be a little bit smart. And you can outsmart
and just
the guards.
Desire to have fun.
And so, I don't know. That just reminded me of that. The fact that she was able to do it,
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that is all I have.
That's it.
For nonsense news. Do we have a saint for today?
Yes. We have not a real outrageous story, but Saint Catherine of Alexandria.
Okay.
This is another one of the virgin saints. Died in 305 of Alexandria, Egypt, under Maxentius, Maxentius persecution. I don't know how to say that name. Maxentius? I'm going to say Maxentius persecution. I always rely on you on how to say these names.
I know. I'm looking for it. I know you spelled it, but
Maxentius.
Here we go. Maxentius.
Maxentius.
Marcus Aurelius Valerius Maxentius.
Jeez, these are what all these names people get. Anyway, she was born in 282 AD in Alexandria. She was thought to have come from a wealthy family, but her mother was secretly a Christian. She was well educated and beautiful, so at an early age, men throughout the empire sought her for marriage, but she rejected them all. And she told her mother that she would only marry a man whose beauty, intelligence, and reputation surpassed her own. So her mother brought her to a priest who tutored her for a little while, and when she told the priest about who she intended to marry, he said, well, I know a young man whose beauty is more radiant than the sun itself, his wisdom governs all creation, and who's got a great reputation. So the priest gave her an image of a picture of Mary holding the infant Jesus, and told her a little bit about it, and told her to say some prayers to the baby Jesus that night. She spent the night praying, and she had a vision of the Blessed Virgin and the child Jesus. In the vision, Mary told the child Jesus to look at Catherine, but he turned away, saying that she was too ugly, and that he would never look at her until she had been washed clean with the waters of baptism.
Oh, she hadn't been baptized yet.
Right. She wasn't Catholic yet. She wasn't Christian yet. She was just, her mom was Christian, but secretly. So Catherine goes out, finds the priest, and asks him to baptize her. He educates her for a while and then baptizes her. Later, she has another vision, and this time the baby Jesus climbs into her arms and hugs her and puts a wedding ring on her finger. Now, this is kind of early in Maxientus's persecution of Christians. And when she heard about it, she went to the emperor to try to get him to stop persecuting the Christians. And he was inspired by her beauty, didn't quite have the guts to just put her to death. Instead, he called all of his philosophers and the educators to argue with her, to try to argue her out of this Christian superstition. She actually changed some of their minds, and they were immediately put to death. Maxientus imprisoned her. He tried to torture her. It's said that he had her whipped so severely that there wasn't an inch of her blood, of her skin, that wasn't bleeding. While she was in prison, over 200 people, because again, she's in prison to argue on behalf of the Christians. So while she's in prison, other Christians are coming to see her, and Maxientus is getting more and more desperate to try to get this under control. So finally, he makes one last attempt by proposing to her, and she tells him that her virginity is her gift to Jesus Christ, who is her true bridegroom. The emperor ordered that she be executed on a breaking wheel. This is after she had been whipped so severely. Breaking wheels looks like a big wagon wheel, and they would chain people to it and then just kind of use it and maybe a club or something to start breaking bones and stuff until they were dead. So she, now during that time, if a breaking wheel broke during a prisoner's, sentence, it was taken as some kind of divine providence that this person is innocent. Now she had already been tortured and whipped, but when they found her, she had been healed, and they take her and try to put her on the breaking wheel, but it just kind of falls apart as soon as she touches it. So from that time on, the breaking wheel was called to be came to be known as a Catherine wheel. The emperor is even more furious now, and he orders her to be beheaded. She's beheaded, and instead of blood coming from her body, a milky substance flows out. That was in 305 AD. It was there was a cult that honored her, but in the 800s there was kind of a resurge of that when they claimed to have found her body on Mount Sinai. The story was that they had found her head and her left hand. Her hair was still growing, and there was an oily substance emanating from her fingers. Now, they still have these relics. The hair is no longer still growing, and there's no longer an oily substance. There at the St. Catherine's Monastery in Mount Sinai today. People make pilgrimages there from all over the world. Scholars argue over whether she actually ever existed and over whether or not those are her real body parts, but we still honor them as her body parts, and people still make pilgrimages, and there are, of course, reported miracles coming from those relics. And that is Saint Catherine of Alexandria.
One more tidbit. And this is just reported on the Wikipedia page for St. Catherine of Alexandria. Apparently, she was one of those that St. Joan of Arc identified as being the saints that spoke to her.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. She is patron to unmarried girls, apologists, craftsmen who work with a wheel, archivists, dying people, educators, girls, jurists, knife sharpeners, lawyers, librarians, and then mechanics, millers, hat makers, nurses, philosophers, preachers, scholars, school children, secretaries.
Would it be easier to say that who she's not a patron saint of?
I don't think there is anyone. She's not a patron of document handlers. Isn't that the one that we said? Who was that? Calistratus, who was the document, or was that Cajetan? No, that was Cajetan.
Oh, wait. No. That was Cajetan. That's right.
Yeah. So, document controllers, that's what it was.
But archivists.
Yeah, archivist. She was, yeah. So, yeah, it is. I mean, that's what an archivist is. So, she's, and then a whole bunch of cities and states and countries. So,
yeah.
It's a neat saint.
Very important saint.
I forgot that she was one of the saints that Joan of Arc had spoken to. So, and that is St. Catherine of Alexandria.
Wow. Boy, that breaking wheel, I had never heard of that. If you go and look up, you can look up just breaking wheel on Wikipedia and see how they were actually used. It is brutal.
Yeah, and there were different ways that they'd be. Sometimes it was actually a wheel that they would turn on top of people, and then other times it was just, and then they would take the wheel and like hang it or post it somewhere real high so that the body could be, eaten up by birds and decay and stuff like that as a disgrace to that. So, it is brutal. All right, that's all I got.
All right, St. Catherine.
I think we're ready. Yeah. Where are we here? Oh, okay. We didn't go way over like we did have the last couple weeks.
Couple weeks, yeah.
All right, folks. Well, think about what we said. And as always,
circle the beads.
And we'll see you next week.